Salvete discipoli. In this video, in preparation for studying Latin poetry, we will explore just how loose word order can be. A poet needs to be able to put, for instance, a noun and the adjective that describes it in very different parts of the sentence in order to make the sentence fit into the poetic meter. The normal word order in Latin is subject, object, verb. And so, Quintus Melissam vidit, Quintus saw Melissa. But since you know the subject and object by case, other orders are possible. And so these three sentences all mean Quintus saw Melissa. No matter where Melissam occurs in the sentence, you know it's the direct object because that's what the accusative signifies. The same goes for the nominative. It can be the first word of the sentence, but even if it's the middle, it still is your subject. The normal position of an adjective is immediately before or after the noun it describes. And so if we were to add to that sample sentence two adjectives, fortis Quintus Melissam pulchram vidit, this would mean brave Quintus saw beautiful Melissa. Now note, an adjective has to have the same case, number, meaning if the noun it's describing is singular, it has to be singular, and also the same gender as the word it describes. So in this case, pulchram happens to have the same ending as Melissam. Here, however, because this adjective uses third declension endings, it's not going to be the same ending as Quintus. However, it is describing Quintus because fortis is also masculine, singular, nominative. Remember that there are two types of adjectives, okay? So type 1 uses the first and second declension endings, okay? So the adjective for good exists in any of the forms, bonus, second declension endings, bona, first declension endings to describe feminine. Not listed here are the neuters, which are mostly like the masculine forms in this case. And so, if we want to call Quintus good, it's bonus Quintus. If we want to describe Melissa as good, bona Melissa. Note, however, that you can use these same adjectives with a noun of the third declension, for instance, and then you will be using the correct form based on gender, even though the adjective won't have the same ending as the word it's describing. So a male merchant, mercator, is a bonus mercator. You take the T-O-R ending, by the way, and you change it to trix, and then it's the feminine version of one who does something. So a good female spectator is a bona spectatrix. Type 2 adjectives have third declension endings, okay? And the example we've already seen, fortis means brave. Okay, it just so happens that this adjective has the same forms for both masculine and feminine. And so fortis Quintus, brave Quintus, also fortis Melissa, brave Melissa. In the accusative, same thing, fortem Quintum, fortem Melissam. But since adjectives have the same case and number as the nouns they describe, other orders are possible. So, whereas the first example we put fortis before Quintus and we put pulchram after, it's entirely possible to express that same sentence with those adjectives on the other side of the nouns they describe. So, Quintus fortis pulchram Melissam vidit also means brave Quintus saw beautiful Melissa. You would think that there were some practical limitations to how crazy the word order could get. and you'd be wrong. Okay, take a look at what is entirely possible, especially in poetry. In poetry, where the poet wants to be able to fit the words into a particular poetic meter, theoretically, words could describe other words and be very distant from them. And so, pulchram vidit quintus melissam fortis means the same thing as if the words were right next to each other. Melissam fortis vidit quintus pulchram. In this case, look, melissam is on the complete opposite side of the sentence from pulchram, but these sentences do still mean brave Quintus saw beautiful Melissa. So how do you know what words go with what? Well, the answer is, again, adjectives have to agree with the noun they are describing, having the same case, number, and also gender. Okay, now we're going to incrementally make the sentences that we're studying a bit more complicated. So now I'm going to add just simply an adverb to the sentence. Okay, so now Quintus melissam heri vidit just becomes Quintus saw Melissa yesterday. Okay, didn't make the sentence much longer, but a bit. Now I'm going to add a location where this action happened. So Quintus melissam in horto heri vidit. Quintus saw Melissa in the garden yesterday. Okay? Now here's the thing. I can now take this sentence to a new level. I can add an adjective theoretically to everything. But first, let's add an adjective to the location. So now it's Quintus melissam in horto viride vidit. Quintus saw Melissa in the green garden. This is an ablative because this is ablative, okay? They're not the same ending, but they are the same case, gender, and number. Now we can give everything an adjective to create a sentence which is in fact quite long. Now for the time being, notice these adjectives are at least adjacent to the words they describe. Fortis Quintus melissam pulchram in horto viride vidit. Brave Quintus saw beautiful Melissa in the green garden. Now, again, you know what adjective goes with what noun by case and number. Okay, so if you're trying to figure out what's going on in this sentence, you notice that there are, here you've got a nominative, this is going to be our subject, and we look for its adjective not by what word's next to it. I mean, in this case, the accusative word melissam is next to it. Bonus is also nominative singular masculine. Here, melissam is going to go with laitam. Those are both accusative singular feminine. And so this sentence is going to mean good Quintus saw happy Melissa. This one was easy because the adjectives had the same ending as the word they describe. When that doesn't happen, it'll be a little trickier, but still remember, the adjective will have the same case, number, and gender as the word it describes. Let's do another one. Quintus melissam Romano in foro laetus bonam vidit. Okay, this is entirely possible in poetry, people. These words could be that distant. So think for a moment, what goes with what based on number, case, and gender? Who in this sentence is described as good? Who is described as happy? Who is described as Roman? Now, in this case, it's not who, but where. And so putting it all together, melissam goes with bonam, Quintus goes with laetus, and Romano is going to go with foro. And this sentence then means happy Quintus saw good Melissa in the Roman forum. Okay, so let's look at one more example that will be a little more difficult because it will include a case where an adjective won't have the same endings necessarily as the word it describes. In opido, ancilam, servus, parvo, calidam, fortis, heri, videbat. Okay, again, this is not something you would see in a prose writing, but in poetry this could happen for the purpose of fitting these words into a poetic meter. And so once again, take a moment, try to figure out what goes with what, and we will then chart out what this sentence would translate as. Servus is going to go with fortis. They are both nominative, singular, and potentially masculine forms. Ancilam is going to go with calidam. In this case, they have the same ending. They are both accusative, singular, feminine. Oppidum is a neuter noun. In the ablative, it's going to have that O ending, and the adjective parvo will also have the same ending in this case. Put all this together, this sentence translates to, in the small village, in Oppido Parvo, the brave slave, servus fortis, was seeing, videbat, the clever slave girl, ancilam calidam, yesterday, heri.